Awesome. Okay, so we got a lot of powerful presence in the room. Everyone does like a little bit of everything, which I love. So if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Mariana, but I do go by MJ. First, I'm an artist. I always like to say that. I am a creator, but I'm also the founder and event producer for an organization called Positive Underground Social House, also known as Push Experience LA, which is a live events and digital community platform. So outside of creating live events, what I'm really trying to do is do something called skyline marketing, which is get people involved in live events, but we're also meeting them where they're at, which is on social media. So I'm more concerned about the person on an individualistic level when they come to the event. So how are they prepared for their week? What else can we provide for them? What value can our service and our platform be besides giving them a space to enjoy themselves? So I started my career in customer service, and from there I worked for AEG, also known as Staples Center or Microsoft Theater, where I did entertainment and guest services. And I went into management from there. From there, I transitioned into the county and nonprofit sector, working for Downtown Women's Center, and I also connected to other social enterprises. So one of the things that kind of came up that was a parallel between all the different industries was that we don't take care of ourselves. And employees don't take care of themselves, management doesn't take care of themselves, and that kind of affects the relationship that we have with each other as entrepreneurs, as business people, because self-care and mindfulness is really important because we're interacting with the public, we're providing a service, and we have to be of service to ourselves. So the first question I wanted to ask you guys is, and you guys can kind of just dive into it, what comes to mind when you think of mindfulness? Don't all speak at once.
Just being aware, like kind of being in the room and being present and like kind of, I guess, being able to, how would I put it? Being able to kind of cast aside all the other things that might be taking up your brain space at the current time and just being mindful of or being aware of what's going on right in front of you at that very moment.
Cool. Anyone else? Or did you guys have any like certain expectations to the workshop when you heard mindfulness when you first saw it?
No, I just like to piggyback on what you said, just being cognitive of not only like yourself, like your environment, the people around you.
Absolutely.
You know, so you know how to act or not act or react.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I have this clip for you guys from an organization called Happify. And Happify is, it's an app, but they also have a social media presence on Instagram. Right now, their app is only available for Android, but it's kind of a mindfulness app that sends you alerts throughout the day and affirmations. It's a really cute page. So here's an animation.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. So I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, "Who's chasing you?" But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribes for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, so how many of us have been in the car like that, especially with LA traffic? Right? Right, and we haven't been so kind to the next driver. So again, mindfulness is kind of just activating that option that you have, saying like, okay, I don't have to be so reactive, but I can be proactive. So, here we go. So some of the, there are myths around mindfulness. And one of the things I want to reiterate over and over throughout this workshop is that it is a lifestyle. It's not kind of a reward that you give yourself like, oh, I did so good today, let me give myself a piece of mindfulness, okay? And then it's also not exclusive to women. There's a myth around just women practicing self-care, and that's kind of the things that I want us to think outside the box. Another thing is it's not for hippies, okay? So mindfulness is not something that, again, that you just reward yourself. It's not exclusive to women. Mindfulness and self-care are kind of like buzzwords that are going around in the mental health industry as well as social media. We see a lot of people talking about self-care, but it really is opening up conversations about what's needed in the workplace, especially larger corporations where toxicity is coming down from upper management all the way down. And we see it. We see it with managers who are stressed out. We see it with high execs that are stressed out, and they don't realize that that lack of self-care and that lack of mindfulness carries over into their employees, okay? So what I want you guys to do is, what clip is this movie, or what movie is this clip from? Step Brothers, right. So what I want you guys to do is think of mindfulness as dining out at a restaurant, right? You've been looking forward to this restaurant. Your friend told you, oh my gosh, it's so good. I can't wait to take you. You order your food. The waiter comes to the table. They bring you your food and you realize you don't like it. And do you tell your friend, hey, this food is actually trash. I don't care for it. Or do you make yourself available and open to say, I have another option? You call the waiter over and you say, you know what? I think I want something else. Let me trade this in. And you enjoy the rest of your night, right? Mindfulness, again, is activating that tool saying, I have an option. I don't have to be reactive. I can still enjoy my night. The options are available to me, okay? Does anyone have any questions so far? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so I have our first activity, okay? There's an envelope in the middle of the table. I think it's labeled Activity 1. So since you have the envelope in your hand, Lauren, so there are questions in there, and we can kind of do like a popcorn style if you want to like bounce the envelope to the next person. So what you're going to do is you're going to open it up and you can read the question out loud. And by a show of hands, I kind of want you guys to answer this question by a show of hands. So go ahead and read it.
Have you ever fell asleep during a work-related meeting?
You're guilty too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I definitely have fell asleep during a work-related meeting. I've been caught during a work-related meeting sleeping, and I played it off. But we've all been there, right? And what kind of makes it uninteresting?
Too long.
Too long?
Monotone sometimes.
Yeah.
Just real.
What about the information?
Yeah.
Redundant.
Redundant?
Like instruction. Yeah.
Not really useful.
Right, Right. And how many of you feel that sometimes I know this already? Right? It almost seems like they're repeating the same trainings over and over, things that you already know. But on the flip side, when you are in a meeting, it's kind of a way to get away from work. You're like, yes, I get to sit down and not do anything and pretend I'm listening, right? So what can we do to kind of open up and change that scene? What you guys can do is communicate to your manager and say, hey, you know what? I don't feel like I'm retaining enough information. Is there any way we can have a break in between? Is there any way we can have a 5-minute stretch? Because that's especially people who put together those meetings, they want you guys to retain the information that's in there. So just go to the manager and then make sure they feel like it's a win-lose perspective and say, you know what? I have a solution. Why don't we take turns in our department bringing coffee? Susan brings coffee one day, next meeting, I'll bring Starbucks. Or why don't we have a snack luck? Everyone brings a snack. Everyone loves snacks during meetings. When there's snacks during meetings, you're more prone to stay up. So communicating to your manager and giving those types of solutions opens up the window of opportunities. Okay? Next question.
Is it appropriate to talk to your boss about your personal issues / problems?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the key things that was said there is it's on a relationship basis, because we all know that we've had certain managers or immediate supervisors where we're like, I'm not telling her anything. I don't even want her to see me. I'm invisible at work, right? However, my answer for you guys is yes. If it affects your work, absolutely. You definitely want to communicate with your immediate supervisor. Sometimes even the HR manager, and let them know what's going on with you. Maybe you've been late for a week straight and you're an employee that's always on time, and they're wondering why is Lauren late? She's always on time any other day. It opens up that window of opportunity to say, you know what, this is going on with me. I do want to be here. I am present. I recognize my workload. However, this is what's going on with me. And then officially, in terms of being on paper, that might even affect your work review. When you have that sit down one-on-one, and then they bring up your tardiness, but you know that you're having issues at home, or maybe there's something that you're trying to take care of, or maybe you're an entrepreneur outside of your regular job. So just opening up that window of opportunity, saying, you know what, I'm really stressed. I recognize my position. I recognize my expectation, but everyone's human. Things happen. You never know what they might receive on the other end, or they might even recognize those things, right? They might say, you know what, Marissa, I did notice that, you seemed a little stressed, and I'm glad that you came and spoke to me about it. You don't have to put all of your problems out on the table and let them know your personal business, but there's a way to do things with grace, right? Who has the envelope now? Wally?
This one says, have you ever felt uninspired at work?
Mm-hmm. So she actually opened up something that I want to remind you guys of, which is cash is not king. Mm-hmm. Cash is not king. How many of us have left one opportunity to another opportunity because they paid more? I know I have. I put myself in many situations where I was just like, you know what? They're going to pay me a little bit more. They're going to help me create the lifestyle that I want. I'm going to go over here, right? But then when you put yourself in that situation, you're naturally uninspired because you're there for a check. You want to...
But you tend to do that when you're younger.
Yeah.
Everything down and say, I'm out.
I want to interrupt you there, because there was something that you said that I kind of want to drive home. He said that there was a lot of opportunities in the LAPD, right? And one of the advices that I want to give you guys is, if you guys are going to accept a position, besides the money, make sure it's an environment that you can milk knowledge from. Like, if it's going to be one of the situations where, you know what, this is going to put me in the network that I need for my business. This is probably going to give me the mentorship that I need, or it's going to give me the education or the certification, something like that. Because sometimes it is about taking lower pay, but walking away with bigger expectations. because I can think of plenty of jobs that I had where I didn't walk away with anything, it just experience under my belt. So kind of look at opportunities like that. Look at clientele like that too. Like, what does it mean if I take on this client? Can they connect me to another event? Can they connect me to another client? So really put yourself in a position to either, if it's going to pay well, ask yourself, why am I taking it? Besides it paying well, why do I really want to show up here every day? You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just going to be a slave to the job, and you're going to look up and you're going to be putting in years that you could have put into your own, to yourself or your own business, right? Does anyone have any questions about that? No? Okay. And just a sidebar, I was actually going to be a police officer too, which I think is really funny. And then my life took a whole different turn. But I won't get into why I didn't become a police officer. Who has the last? Okay, Marissa.
Have you ever been pissed off with a client or a customer?
Woo! All of us? Level 1 to 10, how hot have you been? I've been a 20 with a customer or a client.
I don't think I've been that hot, but pretty close.
Now, that's something I never experienced,
You're lucky.
being pissed off with the client or a customer.
See, it also depends on who you're servicing though. Because when I was working for Staples Center, I had to deal with intoxicated guests. I had to deal with people who were committing fraud. I had to deal with celebrities. I had to deal with celebrities of celebrities. I had to deal with a lot of personalities. And then when I went into the artist realm, I had to deal with artists who thought they were celebrities. Then when I went into nonprofit, I had to deal with clients who wanted all of the services but didn't want to do any work, right? So I've seen a little bit of everything. And sometimes clients, customers, guests, whatever, they can pour onto you. They can just they can put you in a situation where they want to vent to you, or they think that you're going to be their savior. Okay? And that happens a lot in the entrepreneurship world because there isn't that boundary in entrepreneurship where it's like, well, why do I have to respect you? We don't have a contract. Or you're at my party, so why, this is how I'm going to approach. There's no professional boundary there, right? So one of the things I want to note when it comes to client, customer upsetting you, whatever it might be, take the opportunity to educate the customer or the client, especially if you're going to see their face again, if you're going to have a relationship with them, if you think they might return to your service, figure out how you can educate them. Maybe they say, well, I feel like your prices are too high. Okay, well, this is why we charge this. Okay, at least you opened up that window of opportunity to say, well, this is why. And Marissa, in your case, both of you guys deal in social services. Maybe there's a client who doesn't understand a certain policy or why they can't have a certain resource. Educating them, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to return back to you. Okay, Mimi, you're in healthcare. So maybe a doctor comes to you and says, well, why isn't this available? Why isn't this ready? Or maybe you have an employee that approaches you and says, why? It's opening up the opportunity to educate them. Does that make sense? Because you're kind of creating that boundary. Go ahead.
I could definitely be important. It's just about communication.
Yeah, you said something key, setting the expectations. Maybe there's somebody who wants to use your services later on or come to you later on, and now they know your personality type. Now they know, you know what, Lauren isn't going to take that. So I need to approach her this way. You've created that boundary. So then you guys can also probably have a prosperous relationship, down the run, especially if you're of service to someone. Because unfortunately, when we're clocked in, whether you're in entrepreneurship or not, there's a certain level of integrity that we have to have, right? And professionalism that we have to have, even if we want to take the mask off, okay? So really quick, these are stats that I thought were really interesting. So the first one is, based on a national study, 18% of people working ages 15 to 54 report that they experienced symptoms of mental health disorder in the previous month. And I believe that came from Harvard Business Law. So this is what stood out to me about this statistic. Ages 15 to 54 are experiencing mental health disorders or mental health ailments. So that means that a teenager who's probably walking into their first work-related experience is already going through something. Now, I've been working since I was 14. I don't think I was ever stressed to the point where I came to my mom and said, Mom, I have anxiety. I don't know if I can do this. It was just kind of a way of life, right? On the other side of the spectrum, we have individuals who are 54, which could be looking into retirement or looking into something later, who are experiencing mental health disorders. So it kind of stood out to me because I'm wanting to know what's happening in our workforce, what's happening in our workspace to where we're experiencing mental health disorders, right? 1 in 4 Americans say work is a source of anxiety. Does anyone feel anxious about work, or do you ever feel anxious at work? Cassie?
What do you mean by anxious?
Do you-
Further define.
I would say, does it make you feel on edge? Does it make you feel like you don't have control over your environment? Do you overthink? Looking, and one of the examples I had was, we see this in our Monday blues attitude. Everyone's looking forward to Friday, but no one's looking forward to Monday, right? And then when you're walking around at work, hey, Gary, good morning. Oh, hey, I'm here. I'm here. You know, hey, happy Monday. Yeah, happy Monday. You know, and then when it's Friday, hey, TGIF, hey, I'm glad how you doing? Hey, it's Friday, I'm out of here, right? And then here comes Sunday, and we're back to it. So it's like, why do we feel this way, right? Why do we feel this way? And how can we trump this? We can change our mentality. Not everyone, Monday is gonna come. Friday is gonna be here, but it's also gonna be the way you look at your job, look at what you're doing, or maybe there's some things you need to change in your life so you don't have the Monday blues. You know, if you wake up, then you got another chance, right? So I just thought that was funny because at my old job, everyone was, hey, it's Friday, I'm here, I'm surviving. 4 out of 5 workers report poor work-life balance. Very simple, work is work and home is home. A lot of us bring home into work and we bring work home. You know, your spouse or your roommate asks you, how was working? Like, hey, Susan's still getting on my nerves, still in my pencils. Like, what are we complaining about? Mental health impacts profitability of a business because anxiety and depression are 2 leading causes of employee absenteeism. Now, I didn't put the other causes of employee absenteeism. There were 6 in total, but the 2 leading ones for people calling off and taking leave of absences were anxiety and depression. That means that people are literally calling off just because they're stressed out or taking leave of absence because they're depressed. And sometimes we don't even have words for it. Some of us don't know what depression looks like. Often we hear people say, I'm just tired, and sometimes we are, and it could just be that, but it's important to note where your mental health is and really putting yourself first, okay? And looking at it from a business perspective and looking at it also from a management perspective, I know if I'm running a business, I want my employees to show up. If I have a small business and I have 10 employees and 6 of them aren't feeling well because they're stressed out, I'm in trouble, right? And you ladies have a mobile bar business. What happens when you have, ladies and gentlemen working under you and I'm too stressed, I can't handle it. So that's really something to ask people, especially during an interview process. That's something that I think that needs to be implemented in the intake process, is asking them, how do you take care of yourself?
But
What do
can
you do for fun?
questions like that in an interview?
I believe so. I believe that especially in social service industry, there's a certain way, and those are the questions that you should be asking. Why? Because 9 times out of 10, the person that you're interviewing, they're putting on a face because they want the job. We want to know, how are they feeling behind that face? Because you can do the job, but you're someone who goes home at night and you have anxiety or you have depression or you don't take care of yourself because you're a people pleaser. So how is that going to carry over into you showing up for work? You're going to be a people pleaser and you're going to drain yourself out. Okay? So I definitely believe that people in management positions who do have the opportunity to hire employees should be asking these questions. Even if you just want to have somebody, work for you temporarily, how do you take care of yourself? What do you do for fun? What do you do in stressful environments? Questions like that can open up so much conversation versus saying, what are your pay expectations? Okay? Is it? And that's why I say work is work, leave work at work, and home is home. Really separate the two, and have that boundary with yourself. I also want you guys to walk away from this saying, I need to create boundaries with myself. If I'm, spending time with my kids, let me spend time with my kids and not think about what just happened at work. Because it might be in that moment where you feel inspiration and say, I just needed a break. I just needed to breathe. I'm going to show up to work tomorrow. So the next segment I have for you guys is something called the burnout, which I think is really important. So employee burnout is a situation in which an employee or worker feels extreme exhaustion, either physically, emotionally, or mentally. How many of us have felt either one of these? Or all three? Especially when I was working in the social services realm and when I was working in Nickerson Gardens, I felt a lot of emotional and mental burnout because you're taking on other people's trauma. You're taking on other people's issues because you want to be of service to them, right? And sometimes we also do this with family. Here it is, we leave work to go home and our auntie is calling us with some mess, or our brother and sister is calling us with issues. So it's creating those boundaries and saying, especially if you've ever reached all three of these, you need to take some time off. If you're feeling physically, emotionally, and mentally burnt out, and burnt out is you're on flat. You're on flat. You have nothing to give anyone. You have nothing to give yourself. And there's definitely warning signs that we're going to get into. So as Marissa noted earlier, some of the warning signs for employee burnout are disengagement. That can be with coworkers, with your clients, with customers, or even people at home too. When you get home, you're just like, I want to talk, okay? Another sign, decreased quality of work. You just don't have that fire. Absenteeism, calling off work very often. Unfortunately, I was in that position when I was kind of just burnt out, and I didn't know it was a burnout. I just called off because I thought, I just need self-care. I'm just take Friday off so I can have 3 days off or whatever the situation may be. Consistent bad moods with customers and coworkers. Now I'm going to use the DMV as an example. I feel like they are burnt out. Okay? I feel like county workers in general need some time off and a hug. So the DMV is, I'm just using them as an example because it just seems like I obviously owe them something and they are not here for me. Consistent bad moods with customers and coworkers. And it doesn't even have to be an attitude. It can just be non-engagement, with your coworkers, which management does recognize. You're not talking to anyone. Is everything okay? That type of thing. So and this sounds really just simple. Your stressors are temporary, okay? Don't spend so much time worrying about the negative or worrying about the things that don't serve you. If something makes you feel good, whether it's going to school, whether it's pursuing your passion, and you know that you don't mind getting your hands dirty for it, it is going to be worth it. It really is. Don't let family, clients, customers, outside noise, social media affect what's in front of you, because all of us are really here to do something, right? And again, one of the things we do know, again, cash is not king. There's plenty of opportunities we can take where we'll get paid well. There's plenty of jobs that'll hire each one of us, right? But if you're creating an opportunity for yourself, if you're creating a lane for yourself, what's more important? Something that you can pass down. You're not going to bring the stressor with you. I don't know. I can't remember, what I was stressing about 2 weeks ago or 5 years ago. I'm here now, right? So the reason why I wanted you guys to practice that, especially when you guys were listening to other people and being empathetic towards them is mindful listening and active listening. Because the active listening, you can apply that in your personal life and it'll change how you converse with people. Really asking yourself, does this conversation serve me if you're at work? Because all of us have been outside work with coworkers, and what's the first thing they talk about outside of work? Work. I don't want to talk about work. We're at happy hour, right? So apply that same principle in your personal life. If someone is talking negatively about your business or negatively about your opportunity that's in front of you, ask yourself, does this conversation really serve me right now? Like, you can be empathetic with them, you can listen to them, but I want you guys to practice mindful listening and active listening, because that'll kind of turn your gears and you'll start realizing what you're manifesting with your own words. Because when we're talking about our stressors, how do we feel? We feel slumped. We're replaying it in our mind over and over. We're replaying what happened at home. We're replaying our manager getting on our nerves, replaying clients, not paying us on time or whatever the situation may be. We're thinking about all these negative things when in reality we can say, you know what? This doesn't even matter at the end of the day.
The difference between hearing and listening.
Yes, we know that well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, especially if you guys are, well, it doesn't really even matter if you're only in entrepreneurship, but there might be something that you need to take away out of the conversation, right? There might be something that your client is trying to tell you, that your coworker is trying to tell you, but because you're hearing them and not listening, there might be an opportunity on the table, but you're thinking about what's going on at home. So that's really what I wanted you guys to walk away with in terms of the active listening. It is a little bit of a practice, but we all put on the customer service face, the hi, hello, but really taking that in our personal lives and saying, I'm gonna try to practice being more of an active listener, and sometimes the person on the other end just might need to vent. You don't even have to do anything. They just might need to vent. And thank you for sharing everything, because I know, there's probably some personal things in there. So I wanted to go over some of the solutions to the burnout, and Sade, you just got here, but the employee burnout, I'm gonna go back. The employee burnout is a situation in which employees or workers feel extreme exhaustion, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And then we already went over some of the warning signs of the burnout. And these are some of the solutions, just a few solutions that you guys can apply to feeling burnt out, and this doesn't even have to be in the professional sector. This can be in your personal lives. Communication, like I said, that's the first one. Communication can take down so many giants if you guys just open up your mouths, okay? Communicate with your immediate manager regarding how you feel. Maybe something's not sitting right with you. Maybe there's a coworker who you just, you can't meet in the middle with. Communicate. Self-care, okay? Self-care, taking advantage of vacation time and time off to find inspiration and just recharge. Some of us have vacation time that we haven't used. Some of us have time off that we haven't used. Take advantage of that. That's why it's called vacation time. That's why it's called time off. Leaving work at work and taking home, okay? Also, one of the things I want to reiterate, self-care does not look like taking a bubble bath, okay? Or getting a facial or spending $200 on shoes, although that is good, okay? Although that is good. Self-care can look like something that actually assists you, like getting all your laundry done or purging your closet. Okay, because if you have a clear space, you can have a clear mind. So self-care don't look at it as things that are just instant, but look at it as something that can serve you. One of my things is doing my laundry. Like when my laundry piles up, I feel like I can't breathe. That's just my personal thing. I'm just like, oh my God, my life is over. Like I need to wash all my clothes. And when all my clothes are organized, I just feel like everything's together, okay? Asking for help with a workload or partner with a colleague. You guys, this is big because a lot of us have workloads that are very task oriented, that are very tedious, and sometimes we're too prideful to ask for help. Sometimes we feel like if we go to a manager, then I'm gonna look like I don't know what I'm doing. okay? But maybe you can partner with the colleague and say, I don't really have a lot of knowledge in this area. Could you help me so I can get this task done and move on to the next thing? And that also is in your personal life, asking for help, communicating, okay? Sometimes it can look like something like, you know what, girl, can you please help me come over and just clean my closet? I want to donate clothes. Or I want to clean my room. Can you help me do that? I just really need help with something, right? Again, these things don't have to just be in the professional realm of your life. Purpose, find values in other areas outside of work. If work is your life, that's good if you're happy, but it really is important that you guys find things outside of work that you're really passionate about. I'm a personal believer, I don't think we're meant to do one thing on this earth. I think that there's too much life for us to just be doing one thing. So whether that's volunteering, whether that's taking on another side job that you're really passionate about, whatever the situation might be, find something that's purposeful, okay? Or maybe even include it in your workspace. Maybe there's something that you can integrate in your workspace where you're like, I feel like this makes my position feel better, you know, or communicating to your manager like, are there any volunteer opportunities with this company? Are there, you know, is there any way that I can give back to the community or whatever the situation might be? So the action steps that I want you guys to take, we're asking ourselves, we had all these tools. We know what burnout is. We know what stress looks like. We know how our body responds to it. How do we get to mindfulness, and then how do we apply it to our daily lives? This is me in Runyon Canyon. Struggling. Okay, so personal versus professional. And what I want you guys to look at is what I believe is practicing this in your personal life can help you in your professional life, which thus helps you in your personal life, okay? Practice saying no. A lot of us are yes men and yes women, okay? Yeah, I got it, yeah, no worries. No, the house isn't on fire, don't even worry, I got it. Yeah, don't even worry. Oh yeah, I'll take care of the kids, I'll walk the dog, I'll do this, I'll do that. And we're yes men. Say no. Can you crack that window, please? Thank you. Practice saying no. Saying no sets boundaries and helps manage time that is already limited at work. If your manager is adding something onto your task list, they might believe that you can multitask, but maybe you can communicate and say, you know what, I'm not done with this task. Do you think that you can give me a little bit of extra time, or whatever the situation might be? And practice saying no in your personal life. Set boundaries. Set boundaries. Because if you don't set boundaries, people, they're going to think it's okay for them to call you at 12 o'clock at night and talk about nothing, you know, or, you know, show up to your workplace, or stress you out, or talk about gossip, or tag you on social media in some crap. Like, set boundaries. Set boundaries. Boundaries are going to save you. Writing a to-do list. Writing a to-do list helps you with organization and also holds you accountable to stay task-oriented. I'm really huge. I love journals. I love planners, all that type of stuff. I have way too many for like 1 year. And I just feel like if I have a planner, my life is complete. Okay? But writing a to-do list in your personal life, you guys can do that at home. Like, maybe there's something that you know that you should be tackling at home. And if you write it down, you're like, you know what? I'm going to get to this. Because sometimes we think of organization and we think of work, but we don't think of organization at home either. Because you creating a task list in your personal life can also help you think more clearly at work. If home is okay, then work is good. All right? More rest equals more life. How many of you guys don't sleep well? I know I don't. If you've been in any type of entrepreneurship, you up. You're thinking about what you could do. You're thinking about the budget. You're thinking about no budget at all. You're thinking about clients, customers, artists, whatever the situation might be, because I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm like, I got to do that. So that's just me personally, but more rest equals more life. Set an alarm. You know, if you know that you're a night owl, maybe set an alarm to say, you know, okay, I know I should be in bed by now. I'm sitting here on Instagram scrolling. I know I need to be in bed by now. You know, one of the things that has helped me personally, I set alarms throughout the day. Like, for example, if I'm working on a project or a task, I'll set an alarm for an hour. So I know I dedicated that hour to working on my platform or working on a project. And then once that alarm is up, I'm like, okay, I can go breathe for a second, rather than scrolling on Instagram, doing a little bit of work, maybe go make a sandwich, take a cat nap, make another sandwich, whatever the situation may be, but setting the alarm throughout the day can keep you on your toes. Or maybe even set an alarm to say, I'm gonna take a 20-minute nap really quick and recharge. That's okay. It's okay to take naps, okay? Meditation, I'm a huge advocate for meditation. Meditation increases focus and it increases positive emotions. Does anyone meditate? And meditation, it doesn't have to look like you sitting Indian style, okay? It can be something as simple as you just sitting in your car with no music and just sitting there and thinking. Because there's two places where people will not bother you. If you're in your car by yourself, people don't bother you, and if you're in the restroom, okay? So if you're in the restroom, nobody should be bothering you. And if that's just a time for you to just collect yourself, do that. Meditation doesn't have to look so formal with music or sage burning, whatever. Okay, it can just look like you just sitting down and saying, I just need 5 minutes. Yeah, taking a breather. Okay? My favorites, speak less and listen more. Okay? Participate in less work gossip or negative conversations. If coworkers aren't creating solutions or talking about promotions, get out. Personal life, speak less and listen more. You will learn so much more if you just don't speak. There might be something that needs to be heard, or something that you might need, or something that someone's trying to express to you, but because you're such a chatty Cathy, you're not taking it in, or you're not creating that window of opportunity to learn something new. Okay, so speak less and listen more. Does anyone have any questions about any of this? Does anyone have a favorite of this? Practice saying no? Meditation? Okay. I definitely want you guys to get some meditation. And it's like the benefits of implementing some of these things. Number one, it prevents burnout. If you just try one of these things, it might save you from feeling emotionally exhausted or physically exhausted. Because I know people can do that. People can make us feel emotionally and physically exhausted. But if you set those boundaries, or if you're taking time to yourself, little by little, you'll realize that person's not even around anymore, because now you've set a boundary and you're in a different space. There's no nonsense coming in. It also reduces negative psychological and physical effects of stress. When you're stressed out, your body gets stressed out. Simple as that. It refocuses your energy and increases your productivity, of course. The more productive you can be, the better. Helps us live a more peaceful, purposeful, and joyful life by implementing these daily practices. So whatever you guys ended up taking away from any one of these, just know that it can affect you guys in a positive manner, okay? And this is what I want to leave you guys with. Now, when we attend workshops or conferences, we might not look back at our notes. We might not even remember half of this stuff, right? However, we always have our phones in our hand. That's for sure. And these are two apps that I have tried personally. The first one is Calm, which is a meditation app. And I like Calm because besides it being a meditation app, it also has different types of music on it, that you can fall asleep to. Music that really just, makes you feel good. And it's a really good app to have if you're looking into getting into meditation. Headspace is a guided meditation and mindfulness app. It's more of a beginner's app if you're looking into getting into mindfulness or meditation. And it'll send you reminders. It'll say, hey, take 5 minutes to walk outside. We know you're at work, take 5 minutes to walk outside. Or it'll say, it'll just send you reminders like, you need to meditate before bed. Try this for 3 to 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be anything major. But again, all of us have our phones in our hands, so I think it's really important that you guys download either one of these apps or even suggest it for someone who might need it.